Oklahoma Gardening is a production of the Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service as part of the land grant mission of the Division of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources at Oklahoma State University, dedicated to improving the quality of life of the citizens of Oklahoma through research-based information. Underwriting assistance for our program is provided by the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry, helping to keep Oklahoma green and growing. Today on Oklahoma Gardening, host Casey Hentges compares Asian lilies and daylilies. We look in on a tomato variety trial. In Oklahoma City, we find out how city government is working with the Oklahoma Forestry Services and the Oklahoma City Community Foundation to prepare for emerald ash borer in order to maintain a healthy tree canopy. Casey has some preliminary observations from our Bermuda grass eradication study, and Barbara Brown makes a refreshing sangria tea.
Today I wanted to take a look at some Asiatic lilies that are blooming in our garden. Now, of course, everything grows bigger here at the Botanic Garden at OSU, but most Asiatic lilies are a smaller lily that tends to be about 2 to 3 feet tall, and they bloom earlier in the season. So here at the end of May, early June, your Asiatic lilies will start to bloom. Now, they can range in a number of colors, anywhere from whites to yellows, reds, burgundies, and they're just really bright flowers, bright, bold flowers. They tend to have their flower upright to really show it off. And they're a nice addition to any garden, and they're really easy to grow. So think about adding Asiatic lilies to your garden. Now, they are not to be confused with Oriental lilies. Oriental lilies are those fragrant lilies that you often get. A stargazer is a popular one that you'll get in floral arrangements, and those are different than the Asiatic. Asiatic lilies do not have that smell. So if that smells a little bit strong for you, you might look at getting Asiatic lilies. The Oriental lilies get taller. They're about 3 to 4 feet tall. And again, they come in different colors such as whites and pinks and burgundies, and they will bloom a little bit later in the season. Now, there's also other lilies like trumpet lilies. There's a numerous amount of lilies. Liliaceae is a large family, and sometimes they can be hard to decipher which is which because they've been crossed so much. But I want to let you know that there's also daylilies that are blooming. And daylilies are different than the Oriental or the Asiatic lilies. These behind us are true lilies, whereas daylilies are not true lilies. They are a genus called Hemerocallis. And you can tell by looking at the roots here. So a true lily has a bulb that sort of looks like an artichoke when you get up close to it. You can see how it's got kind of some scales to it. And you'll have the stem that grows out with the strappy leaves. And so when you're buying true lilies, you'll get bulbs like this. Now, daylilies tend to grow like this. You can see here we've got more of a fibrous root system, and they have rhizomes that you can easily divide these clumps, whereas Asiatic lilies, you're going to have to wait till it produces another pup of a bulb off of it. So this is a Hemerocallis or a daylily, and you can see the difference between a true lily and a Hemerocallis.
Hi, I'm Lynda Carrier. I work for the Department of Horticulture and Landscape Architecture for Oklahoma State University. And this year we're doing a tomato study. We've got 6 varieties. We are looking at 3 different growing conditions, one being in the greenhouse, one in the field, and the other in high tunnel. Dr. Dunn, who is part of our department, did an ODAF grant, and he's looking at season extensions in greenhouse production as well as high tunnel. So we also want to do the field study to look at primarily why most people do field production, and they're looking at different varieties that are correlating with greenhouse production. So we have the cherry tomatoes, we've got the 3 varieties. One is predominantly a field grown, and then the other 2 are greenhouse tomato varieties. So, and they're trying to figure out if the quality and quantity and the lycopene in them, which is an antioxidant, is higher in any of them in particular. The lycopene analysis was done at Oklahoma State University under Dr. Maness and Donna, and we did it at different intervals of the year. We did 3 different timings, one early in the season, one at mid-season, and one late in the season. And then we also looked at ripeness of each variety. They did lycopene analysis on some that were lighter colored and some that were a little bit more ripe, and then ones that were very ripe. On the cherry tomatoes, on these 3 varieties, they were a little bit different in sizes. This BHN 268 is a little bit larger cherry tomato. The 2 indeterminate varieties that are greenhouse production had, which are Favorita and Sakura, they are much smaller tomatoes, especially the Favorita. The 3 varieties of slicers were BHN 964, Geronimo, and Trust. The 964 is typically a field-grown tomato, and the other 2 varieties are indeterminate greenhouse varieties. In the study, we found that the field-grown BHN 964 had larger tomatoes but less yield, and then the 2 greenhouse productions had a little bit higher yield in our field study. We did the same study last year, and it was done in all 3 places. Last year in our field production, Stillwater received over 17 inches of rain in the month of May, and this year we've only had less than 3.5 inches of rain. On the 3 cherry tomato varieties, this BHN 268 was not able to handle the rainfall as well as some of the other varieties. It had a lot of splits and they were unmarketable. We did a taste panel last year, and on the taste panel, the high tunnel had the highest ratings overall as far as the flavor. When we tested the lycopene, there wasn't a lot of differences overall. So at the end of the year, we'll compile all our results from the 3 studies, and we'll report this in our vegetable trial report, and that'll come out at the end of the year on the horticulture webpage.
Hi, my name's Riley Coy. I work for Oklahoma Forestry Services. I'd like to talk to you today about some of your community trees. We've got lots of different species of trees that make up any community within the forest. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the ash trees. There's green ash, there's white ash. Far eastern Oklahoma, we've got blue ash. There's a little bit of a problem happening throughout the country with our ash trees, and that's called emerald ash borer. Emerald ash borer is a little green bug, a little beetle, kind of pretty actually, but it has the capacity to do a lot of damage, both ecologic and economic damage in our communities. So the emerald ash borer started up in the Michigan area, and they think that it maybe came over in pallet wood, something to that effect. They're not really sure exactly how it got here, but they know that it got here and they weren't ready for it. Whenever it started hitting the communities up in that part of the country, it caused substantial damage. Millions, if not billions of dollars in cleanup was required to help fix this problem. So many communities throughout the eastern part of the country especially have lined their streets with ash trees historically. In the 40s and 50s, they planted a whole lot of ash. They make this great canopy cover over the streets, gives you that tunnel effect. Kind of like we did here in Oklahoma with American elm many years ago. And as some of us may remember, American elm got hit really hard by the Dutch elm disease, and we had to start diversifying our species and planting different trees to create that tunnel effect over roads. Well, like we did with American elm, they did that in the eastern part of the country with ash trees. Once this emerald ash borer hit those communities, those ash trees started declining and dying rapidly. So it's in a tree canopy assessment done in the Tulsa area a few years ago, they discovered about 217 million ash trees in that area. In Tulsa, if the emerald ash borer were to hit and kill all of those trees, they'd be looking at about a $94 million loss in structural value of their urban canopy. To put that into perspective, Oklahoma City has a canopy cover of ash trees that equals about 0.05% of our total canopy cover. So a little bit less than Tulsa, still enough to cause some economic damage and ecologic damage if emerald ash borer gets here and kills all of our ash trees. There are some preventative measures. If you've got a particularly important ash tree that you really want to protect, you can call a certified arborist. They'll come out and they'll treat your tree for preventative measures. So if you have that really important tree to you that has a lot of sentimental value, there are treatments that you can do that will prevent it from getting the emerald ash borer. Treatments are costly and they're not permanent, so you'll have to continue to do those every few years. So we're trying to avoid that in Oklahoma. The beetle is not quite here yet. It's just a matter of time. We have found one beetle in 2016 over in the Grove area in northeastern Oklahoma. We continually monitor. We put out traps every year. We've got traps all over the eastern third of the state, all the way over into the Oklahoma City area. And those traps are checked by volunteers and by wildlife management areas, by communities, community foresters. They all monitor those traps, and we keep up with that and we report what we find. Because we do continually monitor for these, we're going to let you know as soon as it hits, as soon as it starts coming, whenever there's a problem. So there's no need to run out and spend a lot of money treating your tree right now. Just watch the news, check our website, Oklahoma Forestry Services website, and monitor for yourself, because we will put that information out there whenever it does occur. If you have a substantial number of ash trees on your property and you may not have the resources to treat all of those trees, start thinking about the future. Start maybe planting different species of trees to replace those ash trees when they are gone. There are different elm species. There are a lot of different smaller trees like Chinese pistache. If you're in a wetter area, which is typically where ash trees grow naturally, you could do sycamore, cottonwood, if you like cottonwood. There are a lot of different species to replace ash trees with that serve the same functions. If you have any questions about that, you can always call Oklahoma Forestry Services. You can call your local arborist. You can call your community forester if your community has a forester. If you do want to treat your ash trees or replace the trees that you have with different species for the future, there are a lot of people that are eager to help you do that.
As the temperature is starting to warm up, that's the prime season for Bermuda grass to begin growing again, which means more mowing and more weeding in our garden. I wanted to revisit our research that we're doing out here at the Cimarron Valley Research Station in Perkins on our Bermuda grass eradication. And we call it eradication, but we kind of don't anticipate eradicating Bermuda grass because we know it's here to stay. But we wanted to look at starting to kill our Bermuda grass in these plots. Of our 30 different treatments, today I wanted to take a look at the chemical treatments that we've applied on a few of them. Of the 30 treatments, 13 of them consisted of different sprays that we've applied. Now, looking across here, you can see the different variations that we've got on the burn down and the kill of the Bermuda grass. And of course, as you might expect, this one right here is a 41% glyphosate treatment, which tend to give us good results. Glyphosate is one of the main products that is often used to kill Bermuda grass right now. Next to us, we also have another product that we used, and this is a 18% glyphosate with diaquat mix. So again, you can see that there's been a pretty good burn down kill. Now, the thing we do know about glyphosate is that it does tend to translocate a little bit into those rhizomes. So we expect for it to kill some of those rhizomes that are underground. Basically, rhizomes are underground stem tissue. Now, as we look across here again, you can see that there were some other variations, some that kind of did some damage to the Bermuda grass and some that didn't do anything. In fact, it seemed to almost make them greener in some situations. But there's one other treatment that I want to bring to your attention, and this is a product called Torched. It's Torched Weed Killer. Now, this is an all-natural product, and so you'll see on this bottle that it's got a disclaimer on here that it is not a registered EPA herbicide. So there's a couple of reasons for that. One of the things that allows it to have this exemption of 25B is that it has very low risk ingredients. This product has ingredients such as cinnamon oil and thyme oil and some other oils in it, and also some soaps and salts that kill the vegetation. What we don't know is the efficacy of this product, because a product that doesn't have to have an EPA registration doesn't have to prove with any data or any research of the effectiveness of its product. And so a lot of times when you have these all-natural products, it tends to be testimonials and things like that. So the thing about this, again, is it did do a good job burning down. Some of the other sprays that we use also have oils in them and soaps in them, and we didn't see the same results that we did with this Torch. Now, the thing we're going to be watching with this is to see how much those rhizomes recover, because I don't know that it really translocates into the rhizomes like we know of with glyphosate. Now, with any of these products, we do expect those rhizomes to push out new growth, even with the glyphosate, and that's why it sometimes takes multiple applications. Rhizomes are almost like battery packs that are underground for those plants. When they lose their vegetative growth and they can no longer photosynthesize, those rhizomes are underground, and depending on how strong of a stand of Bermuda grass kind of means how strong of a stand of rhizomes you have underneath there that will be able to recharge that vegetative growth above ground again. So you can see we have a little bit of Bermuda grass still here, so we know it's here. And we know we'll probably have to retreat these areas once again. It's also in the glyphosate areas as well, and so that'll be something that we're watching for as this research continues. Another thing I wanted to add is that all of these spray treatments have had 3 applications. And so most recently, the 3rd application happened about 2.5 weeks ago. So that's what we're seeing the results of, is 3 applications, and most recently 2.5 weeks ago. As you look across these sprayed plots, you can also see there's some additional plots that have dieback, and those are replications of these same 3 treatments. And the other thing that you should know about this area where we're testing is it's a mixed weedy patch. So we've got some broadleaf weeds, some grassy weeds, and also Bermuda grass in here. And so the rhizome reserves are probably a little bit weaker than what you might find in a solid stand of Bermuda grass that you might find in a common lawn that is just Bermuda grass. So basically what we're trying to do here is exhaust those reserves that are in the rhizomes before we know we really have killed the Bermuda grass in these plots. And so conditions might vary depending on your stand of Bermuda grass that you have in your location. It's early summer out here, and we wanted to give you an update on one of the mechanical treatments. Actually, we're using mulch, and we've applied mulch in 4 different treatments in different ways. So we've got straight 4 inches of mulch. Then we also did a tillage plus 4 inches of mulch. Then we did cardboard plus 4 inches of mulch. And then we did a combination of tillage, cardboard, and 4 inches of mulch. So it's actually 4 different treatments that you'll see across here. But of all these 4 treatments with mulch, we found that it really serves as a substrate in order for that Bermuda grass to continue growing. And so it is creeping in, it's seeded in. We're finding that there are good patches of Bermuda grass in all 4 of these treatments. There might be a slight observational notice that the better treatment of all of those would be the tillage, cardboard, and 4 inches of mulch, but it's just a very slight amount that we've noticed, and this is just based off of observations, not statistics or anything at this point. And you can see here behind us, we've got some of this Bermuda grass that has creeped in and is starting to grow. Now I will say, I mean, this is an option, but it's going to be a heavy labor option. So you're still going to have to come in here and somehow eradicate this Bermuda grass, either continually to manually pull it or a combination of spraying it or something like that. The nice thing is that this actually will improve your soil as it continues to break down. And the mulch does kind of create a nice backdrop that allows you to visually see quickly where some of that Bermuda grass is growing. But it is tiny, so there's small pieces that you probably aren't seeing that will soon establish themselves as well. So, you know, just to give you an update on the mulch, it is not a one-time treatment and you've eradicated the Bermuda grass. It's going to be an ongoing process that you have to deal with. So at this point, we'll keep the 4 inches of mulch. We'll maintain that on all of these treatments, and we'll also continue to monitor the other treatments that we've done as well and keep you updated.
Today I'm going to make fruited iced tea. Now this is something refreshing for the summer. It's real similar to sangria, but with a tea base instead of a wine. So I've started with 4 cups of boiling water and 5 tea bags or 5 teaspoons full of English breakfast tea. You could use a regular black tea. I'd probably start with that and see if you wanted to experiment with a different flavor of tea. Any flavor could work, however, because it's going to be fruited in the end anyway. So I've made the tea, brought the water to a boil, steeped the tea bags, or in this case loose tea, for about 5 minutes, strained it off, and then I let it cool because I'm going to put it over ice and I just wanted it to cool down before I did that. So I've got 4 cups of English breakfast tea, and then I've got 2 cups of white grape juice. Well, the original recipe called for a couple of tablespoons additional sugar. I didn't think it needed it because the white grape juice has plenty of sugar in it as far as my taste buds go. But you could adjust the taste a little bit. I'm just going to blend those together a little bit. And then we're going to add the fruit to it. Now, I'm using strawberries and oranges. You could use whatever fruits in season. So if it was peach season, you could easily use peaches. You could use apples if you wanted to do that. It's real flexible. Whatever you have, whatever you like works well. And then I'm just putting some big orange slices. This is basically 1 orange. And I'm going to put those in there. Now, if you have time, you might let this sit a little while so that those flavors have time to come out. Another thing you could do if you really wanted to pull out more of the flavor is you could actually muddle the fruit a little bit so that more of the juice came out. I'm not going to do either of those things. I'm just going to let it stir it around a little bit. Now, in order to get the full nutrition from something like this, however, it would be a good idea if you could get some of the fruit into your cup and then also go ahead and eat that fruit so that it's not left behind, so you get the full benefit from it. This picture is probably definitely not going to let me do that, but I will get the flavors from the fruit, and then we can come back later and munch on it. It's real easy. It's really refreshing on a hot summer day. I hope you'll give this one a try. It's fruited iced tea for Oklahoma Gardening. I'm Barbara Brown.
There are lots of great horticultural events this time of year. Be sure and consider these activities when you're making your plans for the weeks ahead. Next week, Casey will be stoked about an aster. We'll have some super healthy tomatoes for the home garden, as well as an easy way to build an inexpensive raised bed. Julia Laughlin, a horticulturalist from the OSU Extension Office in Oklahoma County, will have a great kids project, and Barbara Brown will whip us up some spicy rice. Until then, we wish you health and wellness, and we'll see you next week for more Oklahoma Gardening. To find out more information about show topics, as well as recipes, videos, articles, fact sheets, and other resources, including a directory of local extension offices, be sure and visit our website, oklahomagardening.okstate.edu. And we always have great information, answers to questions, photos, and gardening discussions on your favorite social media as well. Join in on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find this entire show and other recent shows, as well as individual segments on our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. And tune in to our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel to watch segments from previous hosts. Oklahoma Gardening is produced by the Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service as part of the Division of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources at Oklahoma State University. The Botanic Garden at OSU is home to our studio gardens, and we encourage you to come visit this beautiful Stillwater jewel. We would like to thank our generous underwriter, the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry. Additional support is also provided by Pond Pro Shop, Greenleaf Nursery and the Garden Debut Plants, the Oklahoma Horticultural Society, and the Tulsa Garden Club.